Welcome back to Rhymed Reason. In this video, I am going to discuss some more disputed questions of STPGT English 2025. Although the date to challenge the answer key has passed now, it is always fruitful to analyze what went wrong and what could have been done better and what can we do better in the future. So let's move on to the disputed questions. But before we deal with the questions, here are three things that we should keep in mind. First, most appropriate option among the given choices. Second, Google and ChatGPT often give wrong answers. And third, always refer to authoritative editions of texts and standard websites. Now, let's move on to the questions. The first question is question number 17. What season is mentioned in Keats's Ode to a Nightingale? Well, the answer is summer because this is the keyword mentioned. So, summer is the only season that is explicitly mentioned in the poem. So, that is the most appropriate answer. Even though some people might say that May, the month is mentioned, and spring, it's springtime during May. So spring could be an answer, but mentioned is the keyword and summer is the only season mentioned. Let's move on to the next question. What does Shelley ask the west wind to do with his thoughts and ideas? So the most appropriate option here is to spread them like a storm across the earth. Now, some might argue that storm is not the most appropriate word. And yes, I agree. Storm might not be the most appropriate word. But among the given options, option A is the most appropriate option. Let's move on to question number 30. Now, this is a bit tricky because poetry is usually tricky. There is no one single explanation or interpretation of poems. One can interpret and read poems in several different ways and extract meaning out of poems that are very different from others. And that's where thematic questions from poems get tricky. Now, the question number 13 says the epigraph of the poem, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, taken from Dante's Inferno, introduces the theme of love and romance, moral corruption, divine judgment. As you can see, I have marked divine judgment, but TRBT says it's none of the above. While a case can be made for both divine judgment as well as moral corruption, I am not sure whether TRBT will accept it. Let's move on to the next question. In Riders to the Sea, what color is the half sail that Bartley's body is carried onto the house? No color is mentioned in the text. Although you might come across the mention of a red sail, but that was in reference to Patch, not Bartley. Question number 106. Which poem did P.B. Shelley write when he heard about the Peterloo massacre? The answer is The Mask of Anarchy. This was a direct consequence, this poem was a direct consequence of the Peterloo massacre. Well, some of you might make a case for Ode to the West Wind, which also deals with the sentiment of the Peterloo massacre and its aftermath. But the Mask of Anarchy is a direct consequence of the Peterloo massacre, and here I am relying on Encyclopedia Britannica. This is an authoritative website where real scholars write articles, and it's not like Wikipedia where anybody can write anything. The next question is 108. In the following cluster of poems by Shelley, which one has the voyage motive? Well, I answered Adonis, but it's not correct. The only poem with a clear voyage motive is Alistair by Shelley. Now, again, as I have said before, poetry questions are tricky. A case can be made for any of the poem that might be interpreted as having a voyage motive. But when it comes to a competitive exam like this, when it comes to TRBT, the answer should have been or will be Alistair and none of the given options. All right. Moving on. Question number 138. This is a question that can be challenged because there is no error in this sentence. Whom do you believe him to be? All right. Okay. Moving on to question number 133. The question wants us to combine these two sentences into one complex sentence. So the answer is A. After he completed his work, he went home because there is a clear sequence. This happened first, this happened later. So after he finished or completed his work, he went home. So is a coordinating conjunction, so B won't be the answer. And is a coordinating conjunction, so C won't be the answer. This is the most appropriate answer. Moving on, question number 139. In the midst of life, we are in death. Well, a case can be made that it's a metaphor. The answer will not be a metaphor because it is a paradox. Okay, there is probably a metaphor hidden in there, and I agree, but I don't think TRBT is going to accept this challenge. They are going to stick with paradox because that is the major poetic device in this sentence. So, metaphor is not the most appropriate answer here. Well, that was all for this video. If you have further questions, suggestions, or disagreements, feel free to comment down below. Thank you.